under 4 years ago, I had a chat with a person who I'm saying to this day, one of my favourite interviews I've ever had. I'm not meant to pick favourites on this show. I'm meant to be like a parent, like all my interviews are my favourite. It's bullshit. Every parent out there knows they've got a favourite child. Just like as a host, I know I've got my favourite interviews. And by far, one of my favourite interviews I've ever done was with today's guest. And a little bit has happened since we had her on the show 3.5 years ago. She was in bobsled. Something happened. Took some time away from bobsled. Picked up a ball, did some rugby, something happened with that, took some time away from that, injury really, and then decided to get back in the sled, and now, possibly, finally, third time trying, an Olympics could be around the corner. It is an absolute honour to welcome back to Off the Podium today to learn all about that and more, the incredible Ashleigh Werner. Ash, welcome back to Off the Podium.
Thank you so much. That's one of the best intros I've ever had, so I'm blushing over here.
It's good. That's what we like to do. We like to try and make our guests blush, and already I'm just going to tick that off the list that it's happened straight away. But before we get into it, like I said, some stuff has happened over the last few years, and I'm right away. I'm sorry. I have to start off with something like pretty heartbreaking and sad because I really need to know how you're dealing with it. Daniel Ricciardo, he's not in Formula One anymore. I mean, I'm sorry to start off. This is so sad, but like last time we chatted, things were good for him. He was at McLaren, he was doing all right. Now we've got no Dan. Are you coping okay, Ash?
Look, it's been hard for all of us. Maybe now he'll answer my messages. I actually have him on my close friends list on Instagram. He's never watched my story, but I'm hoping one day it'll pop up with like, hey, you're on this person's close friends, and he'll be like, and there's me like, but yeah, I'm holding on. I have been a little bit busy in the past couple of years, so that has taken away some of the sting. But yeah, I think one day I'll be good with it,
Yeah, I think most of Australia will be. I mean, I know we've got Oscar now. We're not trying to take away from Oscar, but as much as we love Oscar, he's not Dan because Dan brought something extra to the table. Right? Have you at least tried to fill in the gap? Like he's got his rosé going out there, the Enchanté. He's got his fashion brand going as well. So I mean, I don't know if you've managed to just wear some of his clothing and drink some of his wine, basically.
I haven't, but I am really wishing him the best. I hope that all the things that he is doing is sort of able to fill that gap that we all feel. So
yeah,
it is. He's not this before the interview. Now
well, I know, right? We how long did we talk about? Let's just do this. Let's prep this. And the one thing I didn't mention was Daniel Ricciardo. I know. Now I've just made a break. This is again. I said I was a good journalist. I'm actually a sneaky bastard. I just want to make you cry, basically. I'm sick of only making triathletes cry on this show. I'm like, bobsledders are my next targets. All right? I'm getting Brie back on. Ash, Sarah, Kiara, you're going to be bawling like babies by the time these interviews are over and done with.
I'll be okay.
Mention Daniel Ricciardo every single time. All jokes aside, though, Ash, I mean, it has been a bit of a journey for you. I mean, I just re-listened to the interview that we did back in 2021, as we were saying off air. Literally did that just ahead of the Tokyo Olympics, and that was obviously before the Beijing Olympics. Now, one thing that stood out to me, which I think sums up what has happened since then, you gave an answer to one of my questions where you said you like things complicated. Now, the question I asked you was, what type of tracks do you like when it comes to bobsled? And you said, I like it complicated. I like things complicated in life. Now, I think that sums up the last 3.5 years pretty well, don't you think, Ash? I mean, it's been a bit complicated since we last spoke.
Yeah, look at that for foreshadowing. Hey, apparently I don't like to make things easy for myself. I don't know why. Here's me being like, I don't get it, but I like everything, and I like learning new things, and somehow that ends up with me going to new sports, going back to old sports, moving cities a million times, trying new things, and then I'm like, why can't things just be easy? And then I'm like, oh yeah, because you can't sit still. So I really have no one to blame but myself. Yeah.
You're just a big fan of Avril Lavigne, basically, listening to Complicated. And
honestly, maybe she'll be some celebrity crush.
Maybe, who knows? I'm just also appreciative that I've got a guest on the show who knows who that is. I'm getting so many young people on this show now. Oh, who's Avril Lavigne? Like that would be their first thing.
We've now gotten to the stage where when I go and talk to young kids and we talk about cool runnings, they don't know.
Oh, it just hurts, right? Like, how do you not know Cool Runnings?
I know.
That's just like full on life. Like that should be automatically, you're born, here's a copy of Cool Runnings, watch it.
It should be a rite of passage. I don't know. And it makes me really sad because I have so many funny, cool runnings jokes and like references. And then I just get blank stares. And I'm like, okay, you guys all need to go home and watch Cool Runnings and then remember how funny I am.
Tick the box. I mean, I at least hope these were your Broncos teammates and not people in the sheds at a bobsled event, because that would even be more offensive, right?
Everyone in bobsled's we're like around the same age, you know, but rugby, you got like all the 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds coming through. Yeah. And so now, like I remember when I was playing at the Broncos, I did give a talk to like young upcoming emerging athletes. And we made a Cool Runnings joke and no one had seen it. So the manager had to pull up like a bobsled video and be like, this is bobsled. And they were like, oh. And I was like, oh.
That's literally like the scene in Cool Runnings when they're at that hall and they're like, this is a bobsled. And then everybody leaves. Like, that's like, come on. You're literally recreating a scene from the movie.
Yeah, there's that ironic. The irony of that is not lost on me. That's for sure.
Wow, that's absolutely insane to think that. And again, making us feel very, very old. And you're like, what, like 5 years younger than I am. So, I mean, imagine how I feel, right? Like it's, you know, it comes from that.
Like, who cares?
Yeah, age is a number, right? That's
yeah.
What.
My knees don't know my real age, so I'm just going to keep rolling with the fact that I'm like mid-20s.
I think my back's starting to realize my real age right now. That's when you start to feel like...
You don't say it out loud, it doesn't.
No, exactly. I completely... There's too much sitting down, right? That's just ignore that and moving on. But for people who don't know, so Beijing, when we spoke, we're sort of talking about that process and everything that comes along with that. And then ultimately, you're not there. Now, it's a complicated story. There's COVID involved, there's selection process involved, but tell us from your perspective kind of what happened there and ultimately, I guess, get nitty and gritty, get like that, what happened afterwards in terms of just like what that did for you in this journey of bobsled, because again, people who know your story knows that how close you were in 2018 and then 2022 happened.
Close closer every time, you know? So hopefully third time's a charm, but yeah, it was a very long time ago, and you're right, a lot has happened. But basically, you know, I guess in one way, I was very unlucky that we are, as a country, we're very blessed to have two really good bobsled teams for the first time, I think ever, was where we could have the possibility of qualifying two sleds for the women's. And there's a combination of, I got COVID going into the last race, which meant that I couldn't race, which sort of obviously messed up our points. And basically, most people don't know this, but you for bobsled, you don't qualify based on a time or a place, you qualify based on points. And so you need all races in the season to kind of accumulate as many points as you can. And we were going toe-to-toe with Switzerland, and we were just above leading into the last race. And then she raced and I didn't. And so she overtook us. And that made it precarious because it meant that we only qualified one sled. And we qualified one 2-man and one mono, which was based on my 2-man results, which was really amazing for me as a first quad driver. I'd only been driving for 4 years, and I'd never been to Europe, and then never been on World Cup, and then Olympic year. I'm in Europe doing World Cup, and that was an amazing opportunity for me. And I was really, really stoked that I got us to qualify. And then came down with COVID, didn't really know what was going to happen, and then basically selection process went with another driver based on her results in the monobob, which is absolutely wholeheartedly deserved. Definitely.
And this is Bree. For people at home, this is Brianna Walker, obviously Bree, sort of monobob driver, and the two women as well.
Yeah. So, you know, unfortunately, there's nothing you can do in that circumstance. And selection obviously didn't go my way, but it was a really tough time because we really tried to fight it, not tried to get Bree to not go, but tried to get us to go as well.
Because you could do, like, Bree could still go on the monobob, for example, and then you could have been selected as a driver with Kiara for the two woman, essentially.
We had no idea because it was the first time that women had two disciplines, and it was like a really weird selection criteria. You know, the criteria, the qualification process was based on your 2-man results, not the mono. And so it was just like really kind of unsure how it could have worked and how it could have played out. And so essentially at the end of the day, we and me did not get to go. And I've explained this before because it just kind of feels like it feels like a death, like a very big death, because it's something that you have given your whole life to. It's something you've given your whole world to. You know, for me, I was completely self-funded, so I paid for it. And I had spent 6 to 8 months overseas for the past 7 years. And like my whole life had revolved around the sport. And then it's this thing that you are working towards, and then you kind of just don't really have a plan for after. And yeah, it was devastating. And I came home and I just didn't really know what to do with myself. I had broken up with a partner while I was away, so I had to move out of my apartment, and then I'd like lost my dream. And it was in one way, it was a really heartbreaking, devastating time in my life. But then it kind of also gave me a bit of a clean slate to sort of figure out what I wanted to do and where I was going to go. And it was once I'd moved into my new place and sort of sat with myself for a little bit that I kind of realized, like, in the way that I was doing things, it wasn't bringing out the best version of myself. And I didn't know what the best version of myself was or what it was going to be. But, you know, I'd always prided myself in being everyone's cheerleader. And because of the injustices that I felt that I had faced in my time in the last 7 years before that, I just turned into this like really bitter person. Like I was just angry and upset that everyone else were getting things that I wasn't, even if it didn't impact me. And that was just not the person that I wanted to be. And it was after I realized that I kind of said, like, oh, maybe I just need a bit of a step back. I need to step back a bit because I need to reevaluate my priorities, reevaluate the type of person that I want to be, and then make decisions for moving forward, whatever that's going to look like. So that was ultimately what kind of made half of the decision for me. And then there was a lot of other funding issues within the sport where I was like, I don't have the money, and I wasn't getting funding, even though I'd, you know, qualified our sleds. And I was kind of like these two things together. I was like, I just need some time off. I need a bit of a break.
Which, just a couple of things on that, because I mean, you are such a positive, outgoing personality, Ash, and obviously people love you for that. But even the happiest people on the planet have bad days. And like, I mean, you are the one person I think that I've had on the show. I can't imagine having a bad day, but you have bad days. Like, do you allow yourself to just feel that? So as positive as you want to be, like do you just allow a weekend where you just, I don't know, smashing shit? You're eating chocolate all weekend. You're listening to old songs of, I don't know, who's a really sad person, lots of people. But you know what I mean? Like, you just allow that, like, because as someone who is so outgoing and energetic, I feel like sometimes you need to have the complete opposite of that to really feel it and feel those emotions and work through that pain you would have been feeling at the time.
Firstly, I feel like staying home and eating chocolate and listening to music sounds like a great weekend.
Right.
Move past that.
I don't know what I was meant to be doing before this interview, but you ruined my weekend just saying, oh, I want to come back and off the podium. All right, well, there goes my chocolate and sad music weekend.
Yeah, that sounds like a terrible weekend. Yeah, you know, I think social media kind of plays into this a lot as well, whereas like I have the ability to choose what I put out there. And I think I've been trying to be a bit more authentic over the last sort of 4 years, because you look at social media, and I think everyone that has a social media account will know this. You look at social media and it's like everyone's highlight reel, everyone's doing amazing. And you sit there and you're like, wow, my life is not like that.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side, you're like, oh, my life has to be like that for people to be interested. And I then just realized I was actually terrible for my mental health, and it was terrible for everyone else's mental health, because what I think people need, and especially like young kids, and I as an athlete, I'm in a very privileged position, and I feel like I like to think that I should be a role model. And I think my job should not be to show everyone that, like, oh my God, these are the amazing things that happen all the time, and my life is great, because no one's life is amazing all the time. And so, yeah, when I'm feeling that, there was a lot of time, a lot of months where I just, straight after missing out on Beijing, where I just didn't want to see anyone, didn't really want to talk to people. I didn't really do any media. I just needed the time to figure it out, because I didn't want to talk about it. And then it's actually so funny, because I had breakfast with my group of really close friends, and this was actually when I first got off the plane. They met me at the airport and took me for breakfast, and I was sitting there and I was like crying, because I just cried a lot. And after breakfast, one of my friends goes to me, he turns and he's like, so you didn't make the Olympics, so you're paying, right? And I just like burst out laughing. And everyone else was like, oh, and then they saw that I was laughing. So then everyone was laughing, and then I was crying. But it was like this really funny moment where I realized that, like, people that are closest to me really did not care if I had gone to the Olympics. And I was upset because I had not gotten there, but I was also upset because I felt like I'd let everyone in my life down. Like I felt like I'd let my family down and my friends and the people that had supported me because I hadn't gotten there. And this just sort of showed me that the people that love you and that care for you, like, don't judge you based on your wins and losses. They judge you based on the person that you are through your wins and your losses. And that has been something that I've really carried with me. And I try now not to say, like, I've had a bad day. I try to say, like, oh, this bad thing, this crappy thing happened, or this thing happened that I didn't like, because I want to acknowledge that just because one bad thing happens in a day doesn't mean the whole day is ruined. And the same thing as, I didn't make the Olympics. It doesn't mean my whole bobsled career was a failure. And I think I'm trying to compartmentalize that a lot more. And I'm not always great at it. I'm absolutely not always good at it, but it's definitely been a mindset that's helped me recover from shit that's happened in the meantime, with injury or whatever happened. So yeah, that's kind of, I definitely do take the time. If I'm like, I'm not feeling it today, I'm not a stay in bed kind of person, but I may lie on the couch with chips and watch movies and go for a walk and then come home. But yeah, I think you need to let yourself feel it, because if you're always trying to avoid feeling it, you never process it.
Yeah. And I think it's the way you summed it up perfectly about, say, something like a social media where, very rarely do people actually put on their, like, oh, I'm having a shit day and, depressed. And then even then, people often get lambasted for it or ripped into because, like, oh, boo-hoo, why are you sad? Like, well, I mean, every human being on this planet, every living creature on this planet, animals get sad too. Like, we get sad, and you've got to feel it. And I think that it's important to have those moments of, again, you can be the most positive person on the planet, but you can see Daniel Ricciardo still gets sad. Like, I mean, it's
we get sad for him.
I know, right? Like, I mean, but I think it's that importance of it, because it doesn't matter who you are, what age you are. If you're being taught that, everything's always positive, then shit's going to hit you pretty deep when all of a sudden something really bad happens that we all will face in life at some point.
You're just set up for fun. That's the way that you think life is. And I think I have a very much healthier approach. I'm not going to say very healthy. I have a much healthier approach this time. I was talking to Sam Squires when I was doing my Fox Sport interview, and she was asking me, like, what are the chances that you're going to make it? Sort of like, what can people do to follow you? And I said, I used to be really worried about putting myself out there. When I was saying that I was going to go do something like another bobsled season, I was like, oh, I don't want to think about the Olympics, which is true. I don't want to think that I'm doing this season for the Olympics, because you get.
Well, there goes my second half of the questions, Ash. Thanks for ruining the second half of the interview. Keep going. Sorry.
It's done now.
All right. Well, this interview just got a lot shorter. All right.
No, I'm happy to talk about it. But like if I say that I'm doing this for the Olympics, then you don't appreciate the small milestones that you hit along the way. And what I learned last Olympics, when I left the sport last time, I thought that my whole career was a failure because I didn't make it to the Olympics. And it wasn't until I sat with that for a little bit that I actually figured, I had this like penny drop moment while I was on stage speaking at an event, which was the craziest moment to have like an epiphany, because you're like, oh, and no one else in the audience knows what's happening. There's just silence, and I'm like staring off into the distance. But someone asked me like, oh, that you had an amazing career, and I was like, no, I didn't. And they said, oh, but you did this and you did this, and I said, oh shit, actually, like, that is kind of cool. And I realized, like, in my last year, I had made my World Cup debut, which was awesome. I had made second runs every run and every race. And for me, that was wild because, at the time I didn't have one of the fastest pushes. So I had outdriven my start, and I learned 4 new tracks in 1 year, which is kind of unheard of. I put together a new team. I had learned to drive 2 new sleds. I had flipped halfway through the season, gone back to North America, won 6 silver medals on a track that I hadn't driven at in like 2.5 years. And then I qualified for an Olympics, even though I didn't get to go. And I was sitting there and I was like, shit, all of that is like pretty cool stuff. And I hadn't celebrated any of it because I was just like, okay, yep, that was a checkbox that we needed to tick to get to the Olympics. Yep, that one was the checkbox. And I just forgot that like these things were actually huge. And then when I didn't get to the Olympics, I hadn't celebrated any of it. And then I had this realization that like, what would enough have been? Like if I had gone to the Olympics and I had come, I don't know, 12th or something like that, would I have then been disappointed that I wasn't top 10? You know, like, so at what stage in your career are you going to be like, actually, I'm really happy with what I've done. And the next thing is now the focus. But I've tried to take that mentality into the last 3 years and now into this coming season, which is like, what are the things? All right, my partner doesn't want to be in the video. Like he's very
in the video if he's hiding in the background. He can pop up if he wants to. I mean, it's blurry in the background. It might all of a sudden be this head that comes out of the thing. It's like, whoa, person. But I mean, you know, we're always down for added appearance. I mean,
slithering on the floor.
I'm actually kind of sad it is blurry because I would have liked to see this guy just like slithering on the floor. I would have been like either that's your partner or you've got a conversation to tell your partner when he watches this later on that you've got men sneaking out of the apartment in the background.
So we just like towered through. So he's just like, anyway, sorry.
I just love the randomness in the background. It's perfect. It's going well. Yep.
Like,
it's Daniel Ricciardo. Sorry.
Yo, that would be a conversation I would absolutely.
Yeah. Your partner wouldn't mind. Let's be honest. Doesn't matter who you're with. If I've got a partner and she's cheating on me with Daniel Ricciardo, like, can I join? Like, I mean, you know, why not? Like, I mean, you'd be down. Sorry, distracted.
Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. So this conversation that I've had with myself has been a lot around what does enough look like? What will make you happy? What are you trying to achieve? And I kind of just realized for me, I was like, I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy the process of it. And I want to enjoy the time that I'm spending away because you're spending too long away from home and the people you love. You're spending too much money for you to do it and resent it. So it's just changed completely my entire outlook around my career and what I was going to
ask. I'm glad you said the word enjoyment because I was going to ask that because we had two guests on this show recently who had a very similar way of putting it. It was Nick Timmings, who obviously, you know, he narrowly missed out in Pyeongchang and then got to Beijing. And then Abby Wilcox, who, you know, ultimately she heartbreakingly didn't make it in 2022 and 2018 as well. And sort of they both told a very similar story about how it's learning to enjoy it that then helps it. And then it's, you know, is it simply going to an Olympics? What does that mean? And everything along those lines. You and I were talking a little bit off air actually about Abby because obviously you're past cross winter athletes, Broncos. She works at the Broncos. I mean, you were sort of telling me this a bit off air, but I'd love for you actually to share this on air. I believe she gave you a phone call after Beijing and when you didn't make it, she didn't make it. I mean, what did she say? How did that help? Because people haven't listened to the Abby interview. We talk about a great post she put up on social media about dear almost Olympian and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of respect for Abby. Like, she's amazing. She reached out to me after missing out in Beijing. And I remember this so clearly because I was like in a car park going grocery shopping in the States. I think I was in Utah at the time. And I just, got this message saying, okay, I know you missed out. I missed out as well. Would it be okay if I called you? I could just really use someone who understands. And so we had this really long phone call and it was heartbreaking because, you know, I'd missed out on 2018 and then I'd also missed out on 2022. So I was a seasoned veteran on not going to the Olympics. And it was, I don't think you ever get used to not making it because you still are just as invested. You give as much.
I'm used to it, Ash. I'm 38 now and I've never made it. I'm used to it.
You went to Olympics before I did. Just remember that.
Oh, you know, but I mean, yeah, we had that conversation a bit. Sorry to interrupt. This deep, meaningful story. I'm trying to make a joke. I apologize.
No, that's my coping mecknism. It's all funny now. I get it.
We get. That's why we get into pain, joke. Let's keep going.
But yeah, so she called me and it was oddly like really healing for me as well because I was in a position that I could sort of tell her, you know, it does get better. I know exactly how it feels right now. It feels like your whole world is crumbling. Your sense of identity doesn't make sense because you've built like, you know, you started sport because of XYZ, you know, you loved it and there's a process that's in place and then you feel that you've been hard done by and there's no one to talk to because your entire support network is getting ready for the Olympics and you're left alone and with your own thoughts, which is the worst time to be left alone with your own. And it was so hard because there was nothing that I could say to her that was going to make it better. And there was nothing that I could say to her that was going to take away how much it was going to hurt. And then I had to be honest and say it's going to get worse during the Olympics. So, you know, make sure that you have a plan for those 2 weeks. Like if you're going to watch it, if you're not going to watch it, who are you going to watch it with? the first Olympics, I watched it with my dad and I cried the whole time. The second Olympics, I didn't watch it because I just can't. It's just too fresh. It's too much. I just don't want to engage with that. But talking to someone else about it was really healing for me as well, because I think we have this tendency to feel a lot like, for me, I know there was a lot of shame around it, which sounds so crazy, but I was so embarrassed that I hadn't made it. And you don't want to talk about that sort of stuff. I think as humans, we don't talk about shame very well. And so when I got to talk to her about it, it was like, oh, we're sharing this experience. And I was telling her that there is nothing to be embarrassed about. And then I was telling myself that at the same time. And it was nice to be able to connect with somebody when you're both going through such a grieving process. And so it was actually really helpful for me, even though she had called me for help for her. It was really helpful for me. And then obviously it was such a nice surprise when I signed with the Broncos and she sent me a message saying, hey, I'm working there. And I had checked in with her sort of like in the years leading up to that just to see how she was going. And then it was just such a nice combination when I got to Brisbane and I got to catch up with her. And it was so nice to see. And yeah, I'm just so proud with everything that she's doing. She's come back so strong. And even if she had decided not to go back, I still think she is an amazing person, a heck of an athlete, and such a resilient human being. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Channel 9 need to send me a personal gift basket in, I want to say, March or April, because they're getting some great content right now. When this redemption duo of Abby and Ash are in Milan next year, right? And they're getting the content off this. Like right now, Channel 9, Murray, you're listening. All right. I like vodka. It's quite nice. I'm an ice cream man. Send me some ice. I'm just trying to get the free shit that Channel 9 owe me.
Ice cream does not travel very well. Just be careful of that.
I'm from Tasmania. It's
even further away, it's gonna melt. Come on.
True. But I'm just saying this is the redemption arc I'm seeing though from you and Abby as well, and particularly kind of on that. But I mean it's we always love when we're talking to Australian athletes on this show in the winter community, not saying we don't love talking to the summer community, but obviously we know there's that, screw the summer. Stop winning medals. Too many of you, 400. I work for the Australian Olympic team. I can't write stories on all of you. There's like 40 in the winters, easy. But the tight-knit community that obviously the winter athletes have, because another thing that I love seeing whenever, say, like you post something, you'll get, say, like Dean or Tarly like it, or then like they're posting it, and then, you've got like Scotty James, like you're all in completely different sports, but you're obviously all so close because literally there are like 40 of you that go to an Olympics. So I love hearing that. And then going back to what you're saying there with Abby, I mean, again, she's an aerial skier, you're a bobsledder, two sports that, don't usually mix. I don't really see a bobsled flipping and a landing in a bobsled anyway, but we can try it, mixed event.
I tried it in Altenburg. I had some style points when we'll come back to that. I need to come back to that because I want to learn about that. But my point is, the winter community, Australian athletes, I mean, you're all of this big family, essentially, aren't you? Yeah, and I think as well, it is a really small community. I also find, because I had nothing to do with winter sport before I came into bobsled. Like I didn't even know like any winter sports. And so I think from the time that I've been in bobsled, I've been able to really meet some of these athletes. And I think just hearing their stories firstly, because I think most, if not all winter athletes have one story of terrible injury because we do stupid shit.
Dean and Talia are fine. Sorry to the curlers, but I think that's the one Winter Olympic sport that you
love that. Yes. I love their sport. I love their story. Like they are so lovely, and they're also like very big supporters of me, which is phenomenal. But like the downhill skiers and the aerials, and you watch that and you're like, oh my God, stuff can go so wrong so fast, and it does. And I love the stories that I hear when I used to be at NSWIS and I'd see athletes come in and be like, oh yeah, I broke my back like 6 months ago and I'm back skiing this week. And I'm like, that's freaking cool. And I think, winter sports are so dangerous inherently that you kind of just have this understanding. And I don't know, it's a very small community. And we don't see each other a lot because we're all in different parts of the world and different parts of the country. So I think the best way that we do keep up with each other is social media, and I love seeing all of it. So
it just always makes me happy when all of a sudden I'll see like you post something or somebody from like I literally one of the posts. I mean, I was going to get to this talking about you and Sarah a little bit after when it comes to your season. the most recent one you did about your, recent bobsled return. But straight away, the first person I see here liked by Dean Hewitt Curling. Like, I mean, it just makes me happy. Like, I mean, if I have to compare my favourite children between you and Dean and Tarly, I mean, it's a tough battle because I love Dean and Tarly as well as some of my favourite guests on the show. But just saying, that makes me happy to kind of see those connections and correlations that you guys have. So, and the OWI, obviously, who do so well and everything in that. But I actually, little bone to pick with the OWI today. Just your name is spelt Ashleigh, not EY. So I do notice in one of their most recent posts about you, they spelt it with an EY. So, we've had a couple of athletes on this show where names, I mean, have been spelt wrong, but we're just politely putting it out there to the OWI, right? Like, no disrespect. Keep giving Ash money if they do. I don't know. I'm not getting into that. Point is, spell a name better.
Start giving Ash money.
Yes.
Anyone giving Ash money. Ash is working full time now to pay. Anyone start
I'm
giving
not trying to dig her a hole. But I'm just politely,
Look, if someone's going to donate money and they want to spell my name EY, I'll go. That's where I'm at right now.
Do that. We'll come back to sort of the return to bobsled, but ultimately sort of after Beijing, you end up playing NRLW. Now, again, it's almost like a full circle moment because you used to play touch footy. You were sort of on the cusp of maybe making rugby sevens and Olympics and that sort of things. But tell us how you go from missing out in Olympics in 2022 to pulling on a jersey for arguably the most famous rugby league club in all of Australia. You got to try to work. How did I do that? That's a weird one.
What happened there? Yeah, it was wild. That whole process was wild. I have no other words for it. It was like I think I decided probably in May that I wasn't gonna bobsled that season. It was obviously an incredibly hard decision to make. But I just knew that if I had continued going, I wouldn't have enjoyed it the way that I wanted to enjoy my athletic career. And I think I would have been doing it for the wrong reasons. I would have been doing it to get to the Olympics rather than doing it because I wanted to improve and I wanted to learn and grow, which is what I love about sport in the first place. And so I made the decision, and then someone actually contacted me and said, hey, you used to play rugby sevens and 15s. Have you considered going to league? I had actually played like a couple of games of league, probably the year in 2018. So in between bobsled seasons, I had played one season, or I had played a third of a season, but I actually copped a really bad concussion that actually put me out of footy for a year.
Wow.
It was a really bad concussion. And after that, my bobsled coach was like, you got to choose. And I said, yeah, bobsled's the choice. So I hadn't played anything since then. And he said, hey, would you be interested in going back to rugby? There's a lot of really good pathways into NRLW. But you live right around the corner from the Tigers. I spoke to them. They're interested in you if you're interested. And I was like, shoot, I don't even have any footy boots. Like, I have no idea. So I called the coach to kind of like have a conversation about an expression of interest. And he's like, yep, see you at training on Friday. And I said to him, like, I don't have any boots. It was like Tuesday. Wow. I said, I don't have any boots. And he said, well, you better get some. And then hung up. And I was like, oh gosh, like what's happening here? So,
welcome back.
Yeah. And then I rocked up on the first day. They made me run a 1.2K time trial in like a Bronco in shuttles. So it's like 20, 40, 60, 5 times. And I hadn't run anything more than 60 meters for like 7 years. And that was brutal. Halfway through, I was like, yes. And then I remember, because like I'm just so competitive. So I was like, I have to finish this fitness test. I have to win, obviously. But halfway through, I was like, I can't do this. And I literally said to myself, it's probably one of the lowest points, but also maybe like one of the highest points. I said to myself, you've missed out on 2 Olympics. You can get through a freaking fitness test. And I was like,
isn't it amazing? Isn't it like, I just want to stop you there because like, I mean, I'm not an Olympian or an athlete, but when I go to the gym and push there are those moments when you're going like, I can't do this, but you literally put on a switch and go, I've dealt with this, this is nothing. And it works. It actually works.
You have real trauma. This is just a little bit of fatigue in your legs.
Yeah.
Single tear as I'm but yeah, so I did this training day and I loved it. And they were like, cool, like come play with us. Well, do a trial period. And if we see a spot for you in the team in the trial period, we will sign you for the season. This was just like New South Wales Cup. So this was when I was at the Tigers. So I said, yeah, that's cool. I'm happy to do that. I'm too competitive of a person to not do any sport. And I knew that if I wasn't going to do bobsled, I needed if I wanted to go back to bobsled in the future, which was probably, I think it was half the goal. Like I think in my head, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back, but I think I kind of thought I wasn't going to go back. So I was like, yeah, look, I'll commit to playing footy and we'll see if I start enjoying my athletic career again, because I think I've lost a lot of that spark, a lot of that joy. And it did. I loved it. I had such a good time. Like I loved playing for the Tigers. It was just a really good team for me. I love the facilities. I love the coaching staff. They were so good to me. And then I had a very good third game for them where I scored a hat trick, like 2 60-meter runs where I just I just burnt everyone, and then another really good try. And it was the first time that the Tigers had ever beaten this other club. And it was just like my face was everywhere. It was like really weird.
I'm sure the fans would have loved you too. We know how good the Tigers fans are, right?
Yeah, that was the first time that I think I'd experienced real fans, because I know we'd go to media opportunities, or we'd go sell raffle tickets at the men's game, and Tigers fans would be like, "What, you're Ashleigh?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, yeah, I'm Ashleigh." And it was the first time that I'd experienced that. But yeah, I got a call from the Broncos that night asking if I would be interested. And I thought it was a joke. I thought I was kind of getting punked. They were like, "Would you be interested in relocating to Queensland?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. If the right offer came up, maybe." And then that was it. Didn't really hear anything else. And then a couple of weeks later, I got a call and they're like, "There's an offer on the table."
Wow.
And I wanted it. I wanted to play with the best. I wanted to really see what I could do, and I wanted to try and accelerate my learning. And I knew that to do that, I needed to be surrounded by, the best in the business. And it seemed like that was going to be the place for me to go. And at the time as well, life was complicated.
Yeah.
A very
There's your word again.
Yeah, right. A very, very close friend of mine that had been a bobsledder had passed away at the same time. And everything that I did in Sydney reminded me of him, and I just needed to get fresh. So it was a combination of things, and it just seemed like the best opportunity after bobsled, his death, all of those things, was just to pick up my life and move.
That level of what you're talking about before, where sometimes, with the Beijing doesn't happen, Pyeongchang happens, but then all of a sudden it's a fresh start, right? You've got that opportunity to kind of look at it. I just want to add one thing. I want to add, thank you for using the word punked, going back to our dated references. There's a show the kids wouldn't remember now, right? Punked. But two things on that. Firstly, coming from a background of union. Now, for maybe a lot of our non-Australian listeners, or even the Tasmanian listeners who obviously aren't exposed a lot to rugby, is there much of a challenge adapting from union to league? Because, they're very, very similar, but also very, very different. So, do you have to retrain your union mind into the rules and the intricacies of league?
In my head, because I also deal with trauma with humor, my brain would just go, well, I wasn't good at either, so it was fine. But I think
touché.
I think inherently, yeah, there are a lot of differences in terms of how many players are on the field. The difference between 7s and 15s to rugby league is also different.
Yeah.
There are a lot of rules that are also very different, like the tackle technique, tackles, mauls, all of that. Everything is different, but similar enough. So they're transferable skills, but you do have to learn an entirely new rule set, an entirely new way of tackling and wrestling, and all of the rules of rugby league. But for me, because it'd been such a long time, it'd been 7 years since I'd played rugby union, or 6 years, to when I came back into league, that I was like, wow, it's all new to me anyway. So it didn't really impact me that much, to be honest with you, at that time.
The bigger question that I have on that is, I believe you're a Rabbitohs supporter. So what's that like, having to wear a West Tigers jersey and then a fucking, I'm a Sharks man, right? And I grew up hating the Broncos. So if I had any talent and all of a sudden I made the Brisbane Broncos, as much as I'm thrilled that I get to make my NRL debut, I'm going to be looking at myself going oh, this feels a bit off.
Okay, so I have had a lot of conversations with my dad on this, because my dad is a die-hard Rabbitohs supporter. Every T-shirt he has has a Rabbitohs emblem on it. when my brother got married, he had to sign a contract with my brother. Like, I will not wear a Rabbitohs shirt to your wedding. Like, he is that guy. He's that Rabbitohs guy. And so it was really hard in New South Wales Cup because my dad would rock up to my games in a Rabbitohs shirt. Ooh. Which was really awkward when we played the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dad, like, hello, who are you going for?
Everyone was really confused, and it was just like everyone was like, "What the heck's happening?" And at the time, Noddy was sort of like hanging around our games because he was obviously the NRLW coach. And he kind of made a joke to me after one of our games. He goes, "Ash, if we're considering signing you for NRLW, Dad cannot wear Rabbitohs gear." And I said, "I know, I'm trying." So it turned out that at the time, a friend of mine had a spare Tigers jersey, so I gave that to my dad so he didn't have to buy one because that's my dad. My dad's like, "I want to support you, but I don't want to support the Tigers. Like, I don't want to support any other NRL team." It wasn't personally against the Tigers. And then when I made the Broncos, we obviously had to have a similar conversation, except it kind of worked a bit better because there was no Rabbitohs in the comp. So he was like, "Okay." He's like, "It's a really good opportunity for you, and I'm really proud and I'm really excited, but like, I'm still not going to buy a jersey."
I was going to say, so he doesn't like show up to a game.
He
like
did. In Rabbitohs still.
Oh, in Rabbitohs. Well, yeah. Random South fan. There's always one. We know that. Exactly. That's the cliche.
Until I sort of like accumulated bits and pieces that I could give to him.
So you got him in, eventually he wore some Broncos colours eventually?
Eventually he wore some Broncos colours. And I remember I got him like, actually one of our friends who was involved in the Broncos ended up giving my dad this like pink Broncos cap. My dad was like, "Can you sign it? Because I don't want people to think that I'm just a Broncos." I got to sign the hat.
That's hilarious. Does that affect you then though? Because like obviously if you're in the sheds and the men's team are maybe on TV or something like that, obviously, you've got to get it like, but if they're playing the Rabbitohs, like for you deep down, you've got these green and red in your veins and all of a sudden, like, I mean, how do you cope? Like, I'll give you a side story, but like as an AFL guy, right? Bleed Carlton blue and white. It's painful. We won't talk about it. But I always said to my dad, I'm like, "Dad, if I was an AFL player and I ended up signing for Collingwood and then I'm in the grand final, I've got the ball in my hands. The siren goes. I'm playing for Collingwood against Carlton and I've got a chance to win a grand final for Carlton to keep, like, who are you rooting for at that point?" And he's like, "Ben, I know you do the right thing and miss it and let Carlton win." And I'm like, "Even if your son isn't going to win a premiership, no, I know you're a true Carlton supporter." So like, I don't know how that works for you. Like if that was a Broncos Rabbitohs, like how do you cope with that?
It does happen. And, it's I don't know if I'm allowed to answer it on the air, to be honest. My dad.
Do it. Go on, break the story.
I want everyone to play well.
Great at. Oh, there you go. You've been media trained well.
I feel like the Rabbitohs. I mean, they're doing really well this year, so knock on wood. They're always usually the underdogs. Everyone loves an underdog story, but like even when I was young, and my dad will kill me for saying this, but like obviously I always supported the Rabbitohs, but I always just kind of had a soft spot for the Broncos. I don't know why, until Origin, and then
I asked that to Abby. I'm like, "How does that work for Origin?" I still go for New South Wales. Yeah,
as you should. But yeah, it was always just like it was just really funny during games because obviously I would watch them. My dad would text me and be like, "I hope you're going for the money right now." And the text he'd send me would sound increasingly more like threats than it would like fatherly, like, "Yay, like we're winning, we scored," or like, "Oh, I hope you're not happy that they won." And I'd be like, "Sorry, my phone broke, couldn't talk to you for 24 hours, didn't know what happened."
Yeah, I mean, I've always wondered, like, using Abby's example, if I was to get like a media job with a team that's not my team. I mean, when I was obviously I'm going for Australia as an Australian at the Olympics, right, during Paris, but big soft spot and big connection to Team Canada. So when I'm there on the ground and all of a sudden I'm seeing like Canada's won a gold and I'm going, "Yay!" And people look at me like, "Ben, you're in like Australian uniform." Like we were talking about breaking off air. I was there for when Phil Wizard won the gold for Canada. And I'm there in Australian uniform, sort of trying not to cheer for Canada. That's a bit obvious. So
you got to be appreciative of good athleticism and good sport, regardless, right? Like
100%.
I think that's where it comes into it. And I think for me, I would always say to my dad, like, well, Broncos played better, or yeah, Bunnies played better. You got to appreciate when someone plays well.
That journey, though, I mean, the time of us recording this now, you're not returning to the Broncos. I mean, you missed all of last season, of course, with an injury. But I mean, that entire journey though, Ash, because obviously a lot happened in that period. We're not going to sort of reflect on some of the incidents, but I mean, a lot of more media attention got brought on to you, things like that maybe you weren't used to. I mean, you touched on that before, sort of being recognized. But I mean, does that grow you as a person / athlete when all of a sudden you've got every news outlet in the country wanting to talk to you, you've got fans coming up to you, like things like that you sadly weren't used to as a bobsledder, even though you should be, because bobsled should be getting that same attention?
Thank you. It was weird. It was a weird experience. It was something I had never experienced because, as you mentioned, like not a lot of people in Australia really know bobsled, watch bobsled, care about bobsled. Except for me, obviously, I care. But it was very jarring when it first started happening because there was a lot of talk about me coming into rugby. I'd had a really good New South Wales Cup season with the Tigers, and everyone was really excited about me coming into NRLW and like what it was going to mean. And I was really nervous because I'm playing with the Broncos, you know, like they're like premiers and the best team in the comp with the best players. And I felt like I really had to step up, which I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, which probably wasn't fair because I was like, I have to be as good as Julia Robinson. Well, you know, she's been playing forever and she is undoubtedly one of the best players in the country and plays my position. And I was like, I have to be as good as that. And I think I put way too much pressure on myself to do what I wanted to do without understanding the processes that I was going to need to go through to get there. And so that was a mistake on my part. And that was a little bit of me kind of caving to a lot of media pressure. And I tried to sort of safeguard myself. I tried to be like, don't read the articles, don't do this. But I did. I read a whole Reddit thread about me, which was really, it was kind of great.
They're
for my
fun,
confidence.
aren't they? They're always fun.
It was all really good. People were very excited about me signing and then talking about how bobsledders have like thighs like tree trunks. And I was like, oh, I do. But you know, I think I let a lot of that get to me. And then obviously during the season, like what happened, and I had no idea how to handle it. And it is really hard when you're trying to, you know, move to a new city, new sport, new team, new people. I had played 6 games of rugby league by the time I went up and started playing in NRLW, and I'm trying to compete at the same level. And I just didn't give myself the grace to be a novice in this, to be an amateur. I didn't give myself the grace to be new and learning because I just didn't, I wanted to be there and I just forgot that I hadn't played much. And so that was really hard. And then I think a lot of the fans helped give me a lot of perspective. And I remember there was this one game where I felt like I had not played well and I was so upset. And I was in the grocery store and I was just wearing shorts and a t-shirt, like I wasn't wearing Broncos stuff. And I was on the phone to somebody who I consider a mentor, and I was talking about like playing footy and feeling like an imposter. I had really big imposter syndrome and I was crying. And these 2 little kids came up to me in the grocery store and I was like, they were like, are you Ashleigh Werner? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you play for the Broncos? I was like, yeah, why? And they were like, oh my God, we saw you play on the weekend and it was like amazing and you did so well and we love having you here and like I love your story. And it was like this really humbling moment where I kind of realized that it doesn't matter how you play, the people that look up to you for your character as well. And that was reiterated to me so many times throughout my time at the Broncos. And like someone messaged me after I put up my Instagram post saying like, thank you so much to the Broncos, like saying, oh, you know, reading the comments on your post is amazing. You've made such a difference to so many people's lives. And it's true. Like, I feel like I didn't do much there, you know, because I spent the whole season injured last season. And yet I have so many like young girls reaching out to me to say that this one thing that I said on a podcast really helped them, or, you know, I gave them
this one, hopefully.
This one, exactly. Yeah. Or I talked to them after training one day and I said something that like changed their life or something. And it's just a really beautiful experience to know that people are supporting me for the person that I am, not for the achievements that I'm accumulating. And that has been like a very, very big mindset shift for me.
Great story. And like in a real, I guess, back to what I've said a few times, full circle moment, because I mean, you know, the incident that happened with you obviously was in your very first game. So, I mean, it's like, welcome to the NRL, welcome to the media world. But then to be able to sort of leave the sport now will leave the Broncos, I should say, not necessarily leave the sport, and then kind of have that moment. And also, I just discovered that based on 2 phone calls you've talked about in this, a lot of shit happens to you in supermarkets. Abby calls you in one. You got little girls coming up to you in another. I mean,
always in the supermarket because I like food. This room. I'm an athlete because I eat a lot. Therefore, I'm always in the supermarket because I like food.
I feel like you need to plug some supermarkets with some sponsorship right now. You're Woolies or a Coles woman.
Woolies, need that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I still have a bone to pick with. I mean, I'm not here to rip into your future sponsors, but Woolies did in the lead up to Tokyo. They did those like collector stickers for like the Great Olympics. Never did one for the winter athletes come Beijing. So I want my Dale Begg-Smith sticker. Come on.
Definitely write a letter.
Yeah, I will. I will write more than one. I will write multiple. I'm a bitter man, Ash. Like, come on, I've got to grow through that sort of. Yeah, just it happens that way. But I mean, but that's obviously you sort of when we're talking off air. I think one thing that I also see from that as well, and we're always talking about the growth of women's sport and the exposure and everything along those lines. Though, is that like, you're in a supermarket and you're getting like this is the how much it's growing and it continues to grow, and just the level of NRLW. I mean, when I lived in Sydney and to sort of see that, and I've seen that also as an AFL fan with AFLW as well, and just that continued sort of strength to strength. And were you sort of seeing that like kind of like growing even more so there? And is that getting a lot more young girls into rugby league and everything along those lines with that exposure?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really cool. And I think obviously it coincided a really good time with the Matildas as well.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah, we were living through an unprecedented time in women's sport, and that was amazing to be part of. But yeah, I was seeing it a lot. Like one of my favorite things that I did in my time at the Broncos was be involved in the kids clinics. Love that. I love seeing young girls and even young boys coming and like being a part with the NRLW players, because I think a lot of the time there's this stereotype that like women's sport is for young girls and men's is for everybody. And I think seeing young men come to the women's clinics as well is so good, because I want kids to grow up in a world where they just see athletes. They don't see women's athletes and men.
100%.
And I think that's where you start. You start by getting young boys to see women play sport and teach them sport. I think that's so important. And so I loved working with these clinics because these young girls just were like, 6 years old and picking up a footy. And I'd like it. I say this as many times as I can because I think it's so important that these young people, these young women are going to grow up not knowing a time where they couldn't be a professional athlete. And that's wild. Like I didn't become a professional athlete until I was 31. Like
that was only last year though, wasn't it, Ash?
It's actually in 10 years time, it's 24. Like, when I was 4, that was when I first said, like, I want to be an Olympian. I was 4 years old. And everyone told me, okay, but what's your job going to be? Because that's not a career choice for what, and now it is. Yeah. And I think that's amazing. And I've been really honored, and I'm really incredibly grateful to be a part of that shift into women's sports. I think I got involved at the exact right time, and that's been really, really cool.
Matilda's the best example of that in many levels. I mean, what is the biggest sporting team in this country right now? It is the Matildas. There's not even an if, Sam, but Sam Kerr is arguably the biggest athlete in this country, and has been for quite some time. So, and we all lived through that Women's World Cup in Australia, and I think sort of it went from that level of, oh, what's this going to be like? It's, women's football, this sort of stuff, to within a week of, you don't even care what gender you're watching anymore. This is just amazing sport. It's amazing tournament and opportunity. So it's great to kind of see that. And we need that in bobsled now. We need the young girls and the boys and everything. I mean, because it's sort of that. This is one thing that has always fascinated me though, when we have success in certain winter sports. And I'm going to say this right now, with no disrespect to someone like Scotty James, because this is not me shitting on someone like him, because he is a high-profile athlete in a high-profile sport. Everyone knows who Scotty James is. But I use the example of Jackie Narracott, who we've had on this show. We had talks with her, and then we obviously had Nick on. And the thing that baffles me the most that both of them told me after Beijing is that still they're struggling for skeletons. Still, it's maybe not even any better. And I will stand on the highest pedestal on this planet and say that the hardest Olympic medal Australia has ever won in summer or winter is Jackie Narracott winning a silver medal. You feel me, right? Like, this is a sport that Australia has no business winning a medal in.
crazy. It's ridiculous. And Jackie's a very close friend of mine.
We love Jackie on this podcast.
We
love her.
We love Jackie Emery. We love
Yes.
Jackie. Like she is the reason that I got back into bobsled now. So
well, that's a good transition to the next point. But tell us why. What has Jackie done to help you get back in the bob?
I will tell that story in a minute. But firstly, after she came back from Beijing, I was in the Gold Coast for a conference. I was speaking at a conference, and she picked me up, and we went and had lunch. And this was when she'd just gotten back, and we ended up randomly like walking in the Gold Coast along, and we saw this water park. So she was like, "Do you want to go?" I was like, "Heck yeah, let's do the thing." And I remember I totally made a joke to the guy that was selling us tickets, where it was like $20 a ticket or whatever. And I said, "Do we get a discount?" And he was like, "Why?" And I said, "She's famous. She just won a silver medal at the Beijing Olympics." And he was like, "Yeah, okay." And still charged. And I was like, I wasn't actually looking for like any kind of discount. I just wanted to blow smoke up the fact that she'd won like our first sliding medal ever, which was amazing. And he just like had no idea. And you look at the sort of fame that our Olympians from the Summer Olympics have gotten, which is absolutely justified. And it just makes me like, I'm like, Jackie, she is like the best. What do you mean?
And it's funny, like random. I remember working for Seven during the Beijing Olympics, and it was on the day that Tess Cody won the bronze. And then that night it was when Chikara won the gold. But I'd gone in between those sessions, I was going to a basketball game, Jack Jumpers versus Southeast Melbourne, whatever. And I remember chatting to some people and whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, you've been watching the Olympics." So this was like day 2 of Beijing. And they're sort of like, "Oh yeah, paying attention." I'm like, "Oh, it's great today. What happened?" And they're like, "Oh, what happened?" I'm like, "Oh, we won our first medal of the Olympics today." "Oh, cool." And like they just didn't give a shit. And it's sort of like, that was just that level of it. But it's sort of, on what I'm saying, I want to hear this Jackie story, but like it's sort of, I look then at, say, like what Bree has achieved, obviously, in bobsled in terms of her position at the Olympics and ultimately right now off the World Cup season. I mean, it's been great that a lot of the major news outlets have been running a bit of coverage. The day we're recording this, Scotty James has just won his 4th World Championship, so I'm like, that's going to hit the news. But I guess my point is, it's somewhat disappointing that still, even when we've got these athletes, your Laura Pills and these people who are kicking fucking ass out there at the world stage, no one really at the end of the day will go a week before Milan next year and go, "Oh, well, Laura Pill had a pretty good season in between the Olympics. Bree's done all right. She might win a medal." And then I ultimately feel that the winter athletes get more shit for not performing than the summer athletes, right? Because there's less of you, so therefore we can heap more pressure on you. And there's all these factors. So this is my long-winded way of trying to defend the winter athletes more. I love the summer athletes. I'm not here to shit all over our guests and our athletes. We love all Olympians. You're all better than me. I'm never making the Olympics. My point is more love for the winter athletes in this country, because I will be with all of you and cheerleaders for the winter athletes. I love the winter athletes. I'm tangents, Ash. Shut me up.
So I think your tangent has a lot of merit. And I do agree. It's hard. And I think about this a lot. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that a lot of our events are obviously on a different time zone. So it makes it really hard to tune in. But, in saying that, we just had the World Indoor Champs in China last week, and it was on at night, and people still watched it and people still knew about it. So I definitely agree that there isn't the same amount of coverage. And I guess that's also just listening from a summer country or like a warm nation, as we call it. But I would love to see that start to shift. I do think that winter sports are quite different, and I cannot speak for all sports because obviously I do a small sector of some of them.
Well, you're ticking them all off. Every Olympic cycle, you're picking up a new one. So
going to be I think, it's really hard in winter sport, at least speaking from a bobsled perspective. There's a very high barrier to entry. You can't do it anywhere near here. It's incredibly expensive. And I think there are, as Australia, because we are such a good sporting nation, we kind of have such a high bar set. Like the bar for us is not do well. The bar for us is win an Olympic medal. 100%. And that's really hard because obviously not everyone is going to win an Olympic medal. And I think this is kind of what I got into my head, which was I needed to be achieving podiums in order to get funding. And therefore, if I wasn't achieving podiums, I was not a good athlete. And that's really, really tough. And I think for at least when I was bobsledding and I was driving, I knew that so much of my potential future in the sport was going to be related to my results. And therefore, there was no way that I couldn't put a lot of pressure on myself. And that was really tough. That was so tough because it was my third year of driving and someone's like, oh, you're not winning. And I was like, but why would I be winning? It's my third year, and it doesn't seem like it didn't seem like I had that opportunity to grow in a space that I could get the support that I need.
Yeah.
That's really, really tough. And so, and I definitely agree. There are obviously less now, so it's a lot easier to keep tabs of like 60 people at an Olympics than it is like 600 people, like our summer delegations. But, I think we're in a really crucial time in Australian sport where summer is doing really well, winter athletes are doing really well, and they're growing and they're learning. And I think that that's the only thing that we can do.
Our most successful Winter Olympics in terms of medals won, of course, was Beijing. If we're measuring it again on that metric of medals, which of course we like to do, but as I often will say, like, I mean, we're of a similar age, Ash, but I don't know if you remember too much, like say, like in the 90s, like how celebrated it was when we got that first bronze in Lillehammer with the short track team. Then Zali comes out and wins a bronze in Nagano. I mean, these were celebrated. These were massive achievements back when, Kirsty Marshall would get a top 10. That's what it is. I think we've lost track of that because all of a sudden, yeah, it's great that we can now win gold medals at the Winter Olympics. Don't get me wrong. But I don't care if after Milan next year we win 0 medals. But if all of our teams come home and you've gotten top 10 season bests, like an Australian has done something they've never done before, and you as athletes are going to be happy. I mean, Brie was an example on the show after Beijing. A lot of people are like, oh, she was one of the best monobobs in the world, didn't get a medal, but she comes on the show and goes, well, I was top 10 in the world. Like, how can I not be happy with that? And that's what I think we lose track of in this country sometimes with that, particularly with the winter athletes, because the fact that you guys are there should be celebrated enough as it is. As you said, we're from a fucking summer country, right? Like, I mean, we have no business sliding down fast a fucking tube of ice, do we?
True. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. So I'm hoping that at least for me, I know, if we're completely honest, for me, our team making the Olympics next year, it's not a given. I think a lot of people don't expect that. And then for me as an athlete to get on that team, if we do make it, is going to be even harder. And so I'm absolutely not I'm not putting the pressure on myself. What I am aiming for me personally is to improve this year. I had a pretty good season this season just gone, considering that I couldn't run for 3 to 4 months of the season with my foot injury. And I just want to enjoy the process. Oh, my shirt.
Hey, enjoy the journey. There you go.
There you go. I want to enjoy the process, and I want to continue learning and continue improving. Because to me, I know that those are the things that are going to get me to the ultimate goal. And if I don't get there, then, there is no shame in that. I have done everything that I can, and I have put everything into it. And very few people make an Olympic team. And if I don't make it, well, I gave it a bloody good crack.
The positivity there, Ash, that's why we love you on this show so many times. I want to talk about sort of that getting back into the sled, but again, you've opened up a door here. Jackie, how does she, like, is she the one? Is she like, well, I've retired now, so have my money? I don't know.
Jackie, if you're listening to this, if you want to sponsor me.
She's a movie star. Did you know she was in a movie? Did you? So I discovered this after, sorry to change the subject quickly, but there was... I'd never. So there was a movie they filmed during the 2018 Olympics. I can't remember the name of it. It had Nick Kroll in it from, Big Mouth and all that kind of stuff. It was a love story filmed literally inside the Olympic Village. It was, and you might know what I'm talking about. And we did it on another podcast that I don't do anymore. It was a nice, cute little quirky film, right? But like they ultimately, because they filmed it in the village, had moments where real athletes were like, Nick Kroll played a dentist. So like there'd be real athletes in his chair and that sort of stuff. There's a scene where Jackie Narracott comes up to him and like asked, and I messaged her after, I was like, I didn't know you were in this movie. And she's like, oh, it was very awkward. Like, nobody talks about it. I'm like, well, we need to get you back on the show to purely talk about you being a movie star. So anyway, tangent, Jackie Narracott, movie star.
So Jackie, if you want to sponsor me.
Yes. Nick Kroll, big mouth money. Come on.
Jackie, what are you doing, sister? No, so Jackie has always been a very good friend. Her and I ended up we went to South Korea and Pyeongchang together for a season during COVID. So we spent a lot of time together. And I just think she's just one of the best. Like, she just has her head screwed on really good. She knows what she wants. She does exactly what she needs to get there. And she's just a lovely human being. And she moved back to Queensland because she's from Queensland when I was living there. So I had been messaging her like kind of all throughout since in the years, obviously since Beijing, because I was just so bloody proud. And then we're just friends. I don't need to justify why I talk to my friend anyway. So we're just friends. We're just chatting. And,
why are you talking to your friend, you weirdo?
and yeah, and then it turned out she was moving back, and I was super excited because I was in Brisbane. She was moving to Brisbane. So we caught up a couple of times when she was there, and we were having dinner one night, and we just started talking about that time when we had been in South Korea sliding during COVID, and we were talking about some really funny things that had happened. Like one day there was a blizzard and the track was closed, but we went there and we found a shovel, and she sat on the shovel and was like, "Oh, I'm just going to go down the bobsled track," but like picked up speed so fast, and like she was really lucky that someone caught her because otherwise she would have like freaking died.
Wow.
But like, and then we were talking about this time how in the same blizzard we had doors, like we had an apartment, like a house that had separate apartments, and the doors opened outwards, which was the dumbest thing because we ended up getting like a meter's worth of snow, and I got trapped in my room and I had to tunnel myself out with a spoon, and she caught half of it with a spoon, and she caught like half of this on video, and then there was like me trying to get out of my door and me trying to get back in where I'm falling, and we caught all this on camera, and we are just like going through and like looking at some of the videos, and we were just talking about it. And I kind of said to her, I was like, "Oh man, like this was during my foot recovery," and I was like, "Oh, definitely. I miss the good parts of bobsled." And I said to her, it's been kind of nice because in the past 3 years, I haven't really talked much about bobsled other than to media because I just held so much of this like grief. And then I was like, "Oh, there were some good times." And she's like, "Yeah, of course there were." And I said, it's sometimes really hard to see that when you've gone through so much. And she was telling me how well Sarah was doing, and I had kept up just very briefly. I hadn't been very involved, but I'd sort of seen some of what Sarah had been doing. And she said, "Yeah, Sarah's doing really well." And I said, "Well, you should definitely tell Sarah next time you see her, like, if she needs extra legs, she should contact me." And she goes, "Why don't you just tell her?" And I was like, "No, I can't say that. I have never actually like talked to her face to face, but I do feel bad because what I wanted for my role in the sport was I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to do many Olympics, and then I wanted to retire and be on the board, and I wanted to help grow the sport in the country." And I said that I felt really bad because I hadn't done any of that. Like I hadn't even messaged Sarah to be like, "Good job, cool that you're driving." Like I just felt like I'd been a bit of a shit. And so I messaged Sarah and was like, "Hey, like I just want to say like congratulations. Do you want to catch up for coffee? Like just to chat." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm actually leaving for Europe next week. So do you want to catch up like this week?" And I said, yeah, let's do that. So we caught up for coffee, and I said, like, "I just want to say that you're doing amazing. And I'm so sorry that not that we really knew each other, not that I owed it to you or anything, but I feel like I should have been more supportive. And you've done really awesome. And like, you've built such a good team for yourself, and you've built such a good career so far. And I'm really excited for you." And then I just said, "Oh, if you need any extra legs,
just on the side."
Yeah. Then just let me know. I don't want to end my year on an injury. Legs. And then she messaged me like a day or two later and just said sort of, "Hey, were you being serious?" And I said, "Send me the information and I can let you know." And so she sent me a season plan, and she's like, "Oh, I really like I could use you for like the 4 weeks in preseason leading into the first race, and if you're pushing well, maybe you can race." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then that's how that sort of started.
And then you're back in the bob, back in the sled, basically. Which I mean, and you got to say, like Ash, like looking at the results, though, sort of what you're doing. I mean, World Cup, which I believe that was Sarah's World Cup debut, was it not as well? Like this is her first, because you've obviously been in the World Cup, but like it was her first World Cup, so incredible. So we're looking here: 17th, 21st, 20th, 13th again. So this is 4 results there in the 3 in the top 20, 1 just outside the top 20, and then in the Europe Cup, 7th and 8th. So, I mean, this isn't just, making up the numbers. You guys are out there kicking ass, and you've obviously switched back to Breakwoman, which is where you started, if I'm not mistaken. So it's sort of like, it's this full circle is the theme of this episode today. But, I mean, does it really then, like, further whet the appetite now? And, all right, I wasn't thinking of this, but now it is. And 12 months to an Olympics, so this is kind of just setting that tone a little bit more for the third time lucky miracle romantic story that Channel 9 are going to owe me a basket for in about a year's time?
Yes. And I think in the sense of I had just so much fun all season. And that's not what elite sport is. Obviously, like, you want to enjoy it, but it's not all about just having fun. Like, there is an element of performance that you have to have. But it was just one of my most enjoyable seasons. I felt really valued. I felt like I was learning. It was good to see my friends again. Sarah's an amazing driver, so I loved getting to learn with her and watch her improve and grow as well. And she built a really good team, and I loved meeting the girls in her team as well. And for me, I just enjoyed the experience so much that I was kind of like, I could do another season for that, not for the fact that it's the Olympics. And I'm trying to remember that as I start each training week. Is you're training because you love this, and you're training because you love being in the sport, you love being in a sled, and you love being a part of this team, not because I'm trying to get to the Olympics. Because I have done that before. I've put so much pressure on myself, and I didn't enjoy it, and I didn't get. And so I think for me, I'm aware how hard it's going to be for me to get there. And I'm really lucky that I have people around me that I can be honest with, and I can say, look, this is the go. I don't want to talk about the Olympics for the whole year. And it doesn't mean
great podcast to come back on, Ash. Sorry about that.
No, this was fine. But like, friends and people are always like, oh, you going to the Olympics? And I just kind of said to my friends, like, don't ask. We'll know 2 weeks out from the games.
Yeah.
It's hard for bobsleigh.
Harsh reality of your sport, basically.
Of winter sports, we don't have a qualifying time to hit. We don't have it. It's up until the cutoff date, which is like January, like 15th or 16th or something.
Yeah.
And then the opening ceremony is like the first week of Feb. So I said to my friends, you will know when I know 2 weeks out, whether I go or not. In the meantime, like, you can ask me about training, you can ask me about plans for the season, but don't ask me if I'm going to the Olympics. And it's funny because my coach, he's been coaching me he even coached me a little bit throughout my my NRLW and rugby league.
Is this Zolt? Is this Zolt?
Yeah, Joel. He's the best. He is the best.
I would follow him on socials, and I know how connected he is with the bobsled community in this country, and I just love seeing him.
But he keeps me like really humble. I said to him the other day, because we just got some information about like the new track in Milan, and I said, yeah, so the start is like this, so we need to focus on this. And he said, but you're not going to the Olympics yet. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. He's like, you don't train for the Olympics, train for the season. And then if you make it to the Olympics, then the training that you've done will get there. He's like, you need to stay focused. And I was like, you know what? Really good pickup. Like, that's
great mindset. Right.
100%. And that's just the mindset that I'm taking. I'm training every day. I'm training for each race. I want to be better than I was last time. And if that accumulates in me going to the Olympics, then that would be amazing. And if it doesn't, then I'm still really proud of myself for everything that I've done.
Not to completely shut down what you just said then, but I'm going to put the pressure on you twofold here. One is that we went from being a podcast where we would be bad luck for our guests to now being a podcast with good luck. We won a lot of medals in Paris with our athletes, so that's a positive. Second bit of pressure for you, Ash. I got up very early. I was living in New York at the time. I got up at 4 a.m. to buy tickets for Milano Cortina. I bought a shit ton of tickets. One of them was for the opening ceremony, but I have tickets to bobsled, and I have tickets to the 2-woman bobsled in Milan. So I want to be there and see you and Sarah cross that line. And I'm going to be the one there with the big banner. I'm going to have a big Daniel Ricciardo smiley face. So you know what to hit. All right.
Take Daniel Ricciardo with you.
I will take Daniel Ricciardo with me. All right. I interviewed him again since we last spoke, and I didn't even bring you up. I apologize. It's my bad. But I there you go. I'll have him there. The honey badger will be there for a hug. Straight at the end. Perfect.
Yeah. No, it'll be an amazing experience. I'm just like,
she's smiling even more than she usually smiles. This is Ashleigh Werner here right now, the smiliest athlete in this country.
Again,
boom.
I got to get there. Nothing is a given. There's a lot of amazing people that are working really hard to be in that sled as well. And I'm thinking about the first race of the season and making sure that that's mine. And then I'm going to be thinking about the second race.
And so right now, obviously, we're recording this in March. Obviously, this will come out a little bit after, but are you off season right now? Like, I know they've just had the World Championships. Like, when is that season for you and Sarah? When's the commitment? When's day one, essentially?
Yeah, so at the moment, we're still sort of figuring it out. The plan is to go over probably sometime in September and sort of just start getting ready. I think we're waiting to hear when each track will open their ice time, but I think probably most will sort of open like early to mid-October, and that'll be us on ice.
And they've got a track there now. They're building it, right? Like, we knew there was a lot of talk about them having to ship it off over to, like, fucking Lake Placid or something like that. But they're finally building one, the Italians, aren't they?
Yes. The first sleds have gone down.
Good. All right. That's a positive.
That is a very big positive.
There you go, Brisbane. Just saying, it took them, like, less than a year to build their stadiums. You're fine.
It took them less than a year to build the bobsled track, which is...
Wow.
Not that I know anything about engineering. My partner, I should probably ask him. But... it'll be fine. But so I forgot the question.
I don't even know if there was a question in there. I think it was, there's a season. When the season? There's September.
No,
yes, right. I don't ask questions on this show. I just talk.
It'll probably, they're probably on ice in October. And then the first race of the season will be the test event in Milan, which will be a World Cup as well. And that's when season's off.
And it's go time. It's green light, basically. Have you found it, like, you started as a brake woman, went to driver, and now you're back to brake woman? I loved in your chat with us last time you talked about, say, like, getting the rhythm of the track. You'd get, like, a song that would kind of help you go there. But, like, literally a backseat driver again now because you were a driver. Is it hard to go from brake woman driver to brake woman if you've never had that driver experience in between?
Yeah, it's hard. It's funny because a lot of drivers will always say, like, I will never get business. And I was just like, that's how I like being in a sled. Like, what do I care? Any opportunity is a good one. I'm very lucky. Sarah is a fantastic driver. And I really enjoy being in the back with her. And I think as well, from my time driving, I really appreciate the work and how hard it is being a brakeman. Because I was a brakeman first. And, your brakemen, I think, this is not me speaking as a brakeman, but your brakemen cop a lot of crap, like they cop the crappy runs. They have no control over it. They do a lot of sled work, a lot of moving the sled. And it sometimes can be a very thankless job. But I think, like, Sarah makes it really easy, really awesome. Like, she's very grateful for the work that goes into it. And that's because, she was a brakeman for a long time as well. But I love being in the back. I love, like, getting to feel the vibe from the back as well. And I think it definitely helps Sarah, at least that I've been a driver, because she can talk to me about it at the bottom and I can say, yep, I felt that. I felt this here. What did you think? And we can talk through driving lines. And it's just like another like voice for her to use. So I definitely think that helps. And I just love it. I do have a song now.
I was going to ask, do you still do the songs, like, or is it Sarah's taken over the aux basically now she's in control of the music?
So she has taken control, but now I sing every track. Vanessa Amorosi, absolutely everybody. I don't know why that song started.
Iconic.
It is, and you'll just hear me in the back,
absolutely everybody.
Now I sing that when we're going down. If I get like a little nervous, and it's really funny because sometimes, like, before our first run in Altenburg for her World Cup debut, Sarah was like getting in the zone because, bobsled drivers.
Yeah. Lucky egg, all that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. And I just said, Sarah, and she's like, yeah. I said, just remember, everybody bleeds and everybody needs. She just like lost it. I think, like, it just took a bit of the edge off because I think, like, everyone's a bit nervous for their debut and everyone's nervous in Altenburg, and she just like started laughing, and then there's us at the start, everyone's really serious and we're just like pissing ourselves laughing.
That's brilliant. That's so good. I love that. And Vanessa Amorosi, I mean, it's 472 episodes. She hasn't been brought up. She's an Olympic queen in this country. Sydney 2000. Like, come on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I could talk about it all. But point is,
that song, I was going to say, like, everyone talks about it. Random Sydney 2000 tangent. Ben getting angry on the 25th anniversary. But, like, everyone's like, John Farnham, Olivia Newton-John. That was the iconic Dare to Dream. Like, great song. Sure. Vanessa Amorosi, Heroes Live Forever, when they're unfurling those banners with Kieran Perkins on it, like, just pumping the shit up. I'm 13-year-old Ben going, yeah, Olympics, come on. And Vanessa Amorosi's like 2 years older than me. So, like, I'm like, look at this. This is brilliant. So bring back Vanessa. Bugger Nikki Webster for Brisbane 2032. Bring back Vanessa. Sorry, I'm angry. Getting worked up.
set Nikki Webster aside. She did a great job.
No, please bring back Nikki Webster. That is the moment we all want. 2032. Nikki Webster coming out in the thing. There she is.
She was great. But yeah, for me, I'm just vibing to Vanessa Amorosi in my head when we're going down the track. So you want to know what I'm thinking in a bobsled, that's it.
I when I say subtle brag, I never hide behind it. When I got started in radio, the first ever, I like to say, big interview I ever did was with Vanessa Amorosi. So
amazing. That is a huge brag.
Yeah, just saying, subtle brag. But yeah, we love Vanessa. Ash, we're going to get to a fun set at the end of our new. Oh, hang on. Yes.
Have you been in a bobsled?
Have I been in a bobsled? This is a person who, when I put skis on, I chickened out after like 10 seconds. I don't ride roller coasters.
No. You can't do that in a bobsled. You can't chicken out. Once you're in, you're in.
Are you trying to say you're just going to shove me down one and be like, Ben, get in, shut up?
If it works, it works. I'm just saying you have to do it once in your life. You so many bobsledders.
I mean, it's true. I mean, look, I used to say I was always going to be Tasmania's first ever Winter Olympian in the sport of curling, and then also just curler, but Dean and Tali. And then I tried curling, realised it was hard. My new goal, we're good friends with a couple of ski jumpers on this show, and the only Winter Olympic sport Australia has never had anybody in is ski jumping. Also looked up the Australian record for ski jumping. I'm like, that's pretty doable. But again, I'm a chicken. But look, you get me in the right area. I'll get in a bob. You shove me down. Go on.
The sport is like, no. Also, side note, I really want to try curling.
Like, tell you what, this is the thing, right? I need to be a man who puts my money where my mouth is. I don't know. I can't say words, and I'm a podcast host. That works. But we're recently, Dean and Tali on the show, and I said, when I'm in Melbourne next, going to go to the Ice House, get me there. Let's do something. We need to get you to come down to the Ice House with Dean, Tali, and I. Bring Sarah. Bring everybody. We'll bring Jackie. Let's get all the winter sport community together. We'll have a massive curl off. I don't know, but I feel we want to do more video stuff on this show, and I want to do stuff with Olympians. So let's get us down to the Ice House. Dean and Tali, if you're listening, let's connect us all up, and then we'll do a curling thing. How's that?
I'm not Olympian, but I'm in. Yeah.
Well, look, I'm sorry, you are an Olympian. You qualify for 2 Olympians. You're an Olympian, basically. You had accreditation. You talk about me going to Olympics before you do. You had accreditation and everything. Come on.
But not an Olympian. It's very, very protected.
You're an Olympian to us. You're an Olympian, a 2-time Olympian to us.
I would still not do ski jumping because that is a...
We I mean, look, I wouldn't really either, but let's be honest. We'll get Ali back on, Canadian bronze medalist. She'll be able to connect us there. But no, curling, absolutely down there. And Bob said, sure, why not? If we just happen to be near a track, I mean, oh, hi, Ash, I'm just in Winterberg this weekend. Oh, you're there too. What are the odds?
They do tour bob rides. They do tour bob.
Oh,
so
okay.
Every track will have a tour bob ride. You may not go from the top. Some you do, like in Austria and Eagles, you go from the top. But like most tracks, you go from like a slightly lower down start. You can like sit up and you do it in the 4-man. And it's super safe fish. I'm
for the challenge, and then I'll get good. I'll be one of those lazy second or third men in the 4-man. They do nothing, right?
You said that on me.
I said that, not Ash. I said that. I owe that. Come on, second middleman, third middleman. Come on, shut me down when it comes to that. Just before I get to the 10 that we sort of close it out with, the off season now, is it just gym work? I mean, if you're not playing NRL, like kind of what is that plan? I mean, I've seen your videos. I've seen Sarah's videos. You're both gym beasts. Can I just say that? Put me to shame whenever I go to the gym. But I mean, is it just kind of hit the gym a lot this sort of coming off season for both of you?
Yeah, it's a lot of lifting and a lot of running. A lot of running, a lot of lifting. Pushing trolleys in the grocery store. Whatever you do, really.
At Woolworths, the fresh food people.
See? Yeah, so it's just really getting your body as prepped as possible to be in a sled. And it's actually really interesting because one thing that people don't think about is the impact that the G-forces have on you. Like they are brutal. And I always found as a brakeman, as a driver, like my neck used to get really sore because you're just like this and there's like heaps of force being pushed. My hair with its main character energy. There's just a lot.
At least you got a helmet on in the sled, right?
I need to figure out a way to...
Well, that was very... They're going to do that again for Woolworths. There you go. Look at that. Woolworths watching this. There you go. That's a fresh food people like hair flip right there. Done.
Anyway. So your neck gets really sore. And it's funny because in footy, you obviously... Or not obviously... We did a lot of like neck stabilization, but you're also getting that when you're getting tackled a lot. So it was the first time that my neck wasn't sore. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should So maybe a bit of that training because that can like impact like concussions and stuff.
Daniel Ricciardo levels, right? Because the Formula One drivers and the...
Daniel Ricciardo, we find a way every time.
Well, actually, on that, and this is related to Daniel Ricciardo because it's related to Formula One. One person I actually wanted to ask you about, Simona Di Silvestro, the Italian sledder who very much on the cusp of Formula One at one point, drove in supercars. I love Simona. I didn't even realize she'd switched to bobsled until very recently. But I mean, do you get a chance to bump shoulders much with her and have a chat with her? Because she'd be used to the G-forces being a car racer.
Yeah, so we raced against her in the Europa Cup in Winterberg, which was really cool. But I haven't really had a lot to do with her because we only obviously had those like 2 race days because we were in a different training group as well. But I was kind of like,
yeah. Do you connect me? I met her. I did media at a supercar race in Tasmania many, many years ago and like trying to be all professional. I got a photo with her because I just, I was like, oh, you're awesome. Like, you were driving for Sauber back in the day and everything along those lines. So, yeah, I mean, best of luck to her as well, going forward.
Well, we're actually technically competing directly against her.
Oh, well, stuff her then. I hope she crashes and doesn't make the Olympics.
Yeah,
Screw on.
Like, do well, but we want to do it.
I was going to get on the show now, but you're not getting our luck on this podcast. You can get 2021 off the podium luck. Screw you, Simona.
She is a lovely though. She's very...
We love you, Simona. We love you. Now, our new 10 questions, Ashleigh. Last time we got you to draw, we got you to do that stuff. We've moved on from that. This is the OTP 10, which this is the same questions that we ask to every single athlete. Now, people listening to this are listening to this in a way where I could be sitting here and compare your answers to Bree. They've heard Bree's chat before this chat, but we're recording this before the chat with Bree. So that just goes out of mind. So I can't compare our bobsledders together. That doesn't make sense. But let's be honest, yours would win. So these are the 10 questions that we ask everyone. And I'm actually doing something a little bit different for one of these ones, but I'll get to it in just a moment. Number 1, question for you today.
Round or it's like what is
Look, it's entirely up to you. I mean, we've been going now for nearly 90 minutes. If you're sick of this and want to fuck off, then just answer them really quickly. If you find a chat for another 20 hours, you take as long as you need. It's all good. I don't know what your boyfriend's doing in the background, how quickly you got lunch date or something like that.
Doing his childish.
Oh, there you go. He's busy then for the next little bit. All right, number 1. What is one thing that you never leave home without when traveling to a competition and you're not allowed to answer your bobsled?
Well, my bobsled's not at home, so that's okay.
I thought it was just in the background there. Like, take it down to Woolies, the fresh food people.
Actually, what I sleep in, it's my bed. You know how people have race carpet? That's bobsled bed. No. So this is a bit of a weird one. Many years ago, when I first was playing rugby 7, I was also studying. I did a double degree at my university. I did business and international studies. I swear I'm getting to the point here. Anyway, so
quick fire.
I don't do quick fire, right? So when I was going, as part of my international studies degree, I had to go and do a year exchange. And I was going to Chile in South America. I was studying Spanish, so I was trying to learn. And I was really struggling because I'd just gotten a contract with the AIS to do a talent transfer program from touch football into rugby union, into 7s. And so I had to postpone my year. I was really upset about it. I didn't know what to do. I was like struggling with the decision. I was struggling with studying. I was struggling with training. I was just struggling because complicated. And I had a really amazing Spanish teacher at the time. And I had an extra session with him at lunchtime because I was struggling with some of my work and I needed some help. And I told him what was going on and I was like crying. I was just like having my own little therapy session. And he told me to close my eyes and I did. And then I opened them and there was this like little teddy bear, this little pink teddy bear on the table and a card. And basically he was like, he had been like a soccer player when he was little and his dad had not really been supportive of it. And so he'd had to give up soccer, but he was really, really good. And he always regretted that. He was really sad that he gave it up. And so he basically was saying to me, like, I believe in you. And no matter what happens, like, I'm going to make sure that you pass this semester. So you don't have to worry about Spanish, but like, you got to believe in yourself as much as I believe in you. And this little pink teddy bear that I call Bruce because we don't do gender norms here. I used to bring Bruce to all of my exams and he would just sit on my table. And it was always a reminder that somebody believed in you that didn't have to believe in you.
Aww.
And so now it's like been 10 years or something. I still take Bruce with me on
Fantastic.
every season. And when I was playing footy, he would sit in my rugby bag, and when I bobsled, he sits in my bag at the track. And it's always just a reminder that like people
Can he
believe
come in the sled? Can he come in the sled with you?
Bruce or my Spanish teacher. Oh, Bruce.
I mean, if your Spanish teacher's available, bit of extra ballast for you and Sarah. I don't know.
Bruce does not come in the sled. That would be funny if I like taped him to the sled, but
Lucky egg, cool runnings, put it down like in the pocket.
It's probably safer than an egg, but yeah, it's just like always a reminder to me that like you never know who is supporting you, and it's always better to believe that people have your back than it is to believe that you're alone.
Great answer. I like that. And then another free one there for Channel 9. They've got that information for their package out. I mean, I've kind of forgotten about poor old Cherry, our show's mascot, who's in a box in the other room next to me there. But like I keep forgetting to bring him up after Paris. But I was going to suggest like you could take Cherry with you. But no, you got Bruce. Bugger Cherry. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's always room for more.
Yeah, well, you know, we'll have like a pin or a little cherry that we'll give to you. But we're not allowed to talk about the Olympics. Sorry, I keep bringing that up. Number 2. A traditional superstition that you follow before every big competition.
Oh, gosh. I used to be really superstitious. So I've tried to like wean myself off that. Like I used to be to the point where I'd like eat the same foods, I'd do the same stretches, I'd like wear the same underwear, obviously washed and clean.
I love that people every time somebody brings it up, they always clarify that. I just want somebody to be like, fuck it, it's dirty as shit. I don't wash it. All period.
So I used to have this really bad superstition because I love sliding in fun socks, and I have like heaps of different fun socks that I slide in, and I used to have a really bad superstition that if I ever crashed in a pair of socks, I would throw the socks out.
Wow, I like that.
Same pair of socks that I had crashed in because I was like, nope, it's the socks today. And so then I started getting into this really, really bad superstition of always wearing the same socks on race day, and I had to wear those socks.
Right.
And I've tried to get out of that, so I'm getting better. But
you say try. There are still obviously things that you're doing, right? Like, come on. Like, I don't believe it's completely gone.
I get my socks out. I'm like, oh, I do also have like lucky scrunchies.
She's actually got them with her there for our viewers. Scrunchies.
I'm an ambassador for Scrunchico, which is like
nice.
Amazing business, little plug. She's amazing. And I have a variety of scrunchies, and I usually always wear my hair.
Merch. Like Ash, so many of our summer athletes in the lead up to Paris were selling T-shirts and doing stuff. You've got to like jump on the train. You and Sarah should be like getting this and, you know, standing out there for the sled.
Yeah. So there was the race in Norway where we actually got our 13th, the last race in the season. I changed my hairstyle for race day.
Okay.
And look, we got 13th. So that'll be my new superstition. I will always slide. And in the Winterberg races where we got 7th and 8th, I also slid with a bun, whereas normally I'd slide with a plait. So that's going to be my new superstition. Thank you very much for that.
I do love that though. Like I love those little quirks that have the, like when you've got someone like when you're in, not say the monobob, when you're with Sarah, and if she's got her own quirks like herself, because I don't think we asked this when we had her on the show, but like, do you try to blend them, or is it more of an individual thing? Like if you're in a team, if you know what I mean, like does...
I think it's more of an individual thing, but Sarah is like so chill. Sarah is the most chill person I've probably ever met in my life, and it's really good.
Works well with her last name. Sorry. That's sure she never gets that.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
But I'm the complete opposite. So I'm like super high strung, and she's super chill. So it's really good because I think that mellows us out, because people think that bobsled's like an individual sport, but you feed off the person next to you, right? And so if she's nervous, I can tell that she's nervous, and then that makes me a little nervous. And then same vice versa. I always found when I was a driver, if I knew my brakeman was really nervous, sometimes I would start to get a little bit nervous. So I think it's really good. I find her like chillness so calming. And it's really awesome because it just relaxes me a little bit, and I can have more fun, which then in turn means like she has a lot more fun, and that's been really cool. But I think my bun with my scrunchies. I love these.
Again, merch opportunities. Just got to go. Like people are going to want those.
There is a scrunchie named after me on website. It's called the Ashleigh, and it is I think it's called the Ash. Actually, it's a beautiful like dusty rose pink. It's stunning.
Okay. Do you think it would go well in my hair? Like, can I help support the cause?
I think it would really bring out like your eyes. I think it would suit you really.
Thank you very much. My pink eyes, right?
Yeah.
That's not. That,
Oh,
we'll move on from pink.
Oh.
Where do I go with that one? Moving on. We know you love your music and we know how much you love it, connecting it to your tracks. But is there a song that is on every one of your pre-competition playlists, no matter what? Is it absolutely everybody? Did you already answer that question?
It is.
Okay.
It is now. And it's really funny because I'll have I will always warm up with music, my headphones. And it's funny because when I'm back in the start house preparing before we go, Sarah always knows when Vanessa Amorosi has come on because I'm like.
It's kind of like Lewis Hamilton when he would hit a zone, his Bono would come over the radio. It's hammer time. So for you, it's like it's Vanessa time. Absolutely, everybody.
And
Wow.
I'm just jamming out there dancing. I'm a dancer too, so I don't have a lot of embarrassment, which is probably good, both good and bad. But I'll just be like jamming out there.
I'm really intrigued now. Like if you're like. When we're at Milano Cortina next year and I've got Daniel Ricciardo next to me, what if I've got Vanessa Amorosi next to me as well, though? What are you going to do then, Ash?
Probably cry.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if I'm at the Olympics, I'll probably cry. So, that's just going to be my standard mode of being. So I don't even know what I do. There'd just be so many things happening at once. I'd just be like, I'm just going to sit down for a minute.
Blowing up everywhere. You cross the line, boom. What was that?
Ooh.
Ash Werner blowing up. Okay, then. That's a new thing for an Olympics. There you go. What is the most unexpected or funny DM that you have ever gotten?
I did have someone ask me if I could send them my worn race suit not washed.
Oh, okay. Yep. How do you respond to that? No, or I need some money. How much?
Well, actually, I didn't pick me just being me. I said, thank you so much for your message. I really appreciate the support. However, these race suits actually cost $350 and I'm a self-funded athlete and I can't afford to. I'm really sorry. I also can't afford the shipping costs. So
Yeah.
I need this. I can't buy a new one.
It's really awkward if they then all of a sudden turn around and go, I'll give you $2,000. And you're like,
and I'm like,
wow.
how many suits do you need?
Yeah, I could buy like 5 suits for that. The thing I love about this question, right, is not only do we find out how depraved people are when they're messaging our guests on this show, but it's also just that level of how far would you go sometimes for certain things? Like, I mean, if you need money, you like feet? I'll send you a couple of pictures. Doesn't bother me.
I did have a foot injury, so I'm kind of now okay with feet. So.
Yeah. I mean, as we discovered with Tali and Dean, they've got sugar mummies and sugar daddies after them. So,
Percolating. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It goes around. What is the weirdest thing you have ever eaten at an international competition, and did you like it?
The weirdest thing I've ever eaten was probably something I cooked because we cooked for us.
What are you making, Ash?
Had some questionable meals. Yeah, no, I don't think they're. Well, I mean, to be fair, like we were staying in Austria at a hotel where we got fed, which was really nice. And a lot of the meat that was like crumbed or in a sauce, I had no idea what it was. Oh, no.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
No. So when I went to South Korea during COVID, we had to quarantine for 2 weeks in a hotel. And I don't know what any of the meats were that I ate. So that was the first thing, but I can neither confirm nor deny because I have no idea what it was. But there was also something that we were having for breakfast. They were giving us potato sandwiches, which was so hot. Yeah, it was just like white potato on white bread. And no, I didn't like it.
Yeah, that's an odd one. But,
It's quite nice in the quarantine, even though I didn't know what meat it was. I was like, this is tasty. It's better if I didn't. But
I remember I did a quarantine once. And was when I come back to Australia and the hotel in Sydney and everything. And yeah, they feed you every single day, but it gets to a point where you don't get to choose. And then all of a sudden they would allow you Uber Eats once a day. Like, oh, thank you, Australian government. But then it was like, okay, McDonald's today. Okay, so like I couldn't get used to the not quite potato on bread, but Yeah,
that wasn't. And I don't like tuna either. So it was like tuna on bread or like potato on bread. And I was like, I'll just eat the boiled egg and wait for lunch. Yeah.
Good old boiled lucky eggs. Bobsled, it connects into it, right? So there you go. Speaking of food, your ultimate guilty pleasure meal after a big competition.
So I really like nachos.
Oh, yes.
I make like a big sheet pan of nachos, which is actually not that bad for you because I know like typical nachos can be whatever it is, but what I normally do is I make like the meat with the taco seasoning, and then I add some chickpeas in there, and then I lay that on a baking pan, and then I do like capsicum, corn, mushrooms, cabbage, and then a shit ton of cheese. And then I bake that, and then I just have like the tortilla chips like separate, because otherwise they get mushy when they're in the meat. Yep. So I love having that because that's my guilty pleasure, but it's actually not bad for you when you make it like that.
Yeah,
so
it's, I mean, particularly, everything you've added there, that's generally fine. As we were talking off air, there are some foods which people think are like absolutely terrible for you, but compared to some others, they're actually,
we also
in
don't
moderation.
demonize food here because everything in moderation, exactly. We don't want to have those body dysmorphia that everybody.
There you go. Again, this is why we get you on the show, right?
Would you like a glass of wine?
Yeah. What's, I mean, again, back to Daniel Ricciardo. Are you a rosé fan? Like, can you get the Enchanté? Like,
wine fan. Yeah.
Okay.
I like wine. Any wine's good. Good wine's better, obviously. There was a period of time where I was working with a vineyard in. I was working with Hungerford Hill in the Hunter Valley, and that was awesome because they sent me wine. It was amazing, but their wine is incredible, and I like. It's my favorite wine ever.
Sponsorship. If people are listening, I mean, like literally. We know Daniel Ricciardo's listening, but like Enchanté on the side of the bobsled, like
I'd do it.
It would work out very well, I think. If you could swap sports for a day with another Olympian, what event would you choose, and how do you think you would do?
Yeah, I'd probably do terribly, but I would. Oh, yeah. My partner is a track athlete, and so part of me would like. I've watched a lot of athletics lately because he watches a lot of athletics and he does athletics, so he's been competing a lot. And I feel like I have to say he does 400 hurdles.
Okay.
Which is like a horrible event. Like it looks horrible, but I think I would kind of like to have a go at that. But I wouldn't do well. But if I was gonna swap with someone and be good at it, then I would probably love to try the 400.
I think there's like that connection with the 400 hurdles in bobsled because Jana Pittman, obviously, when she switched.
Oh, yeah.
So
did not even think of that.
Swings and roundabouts, right? It all comes back.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I would love to be able to run a good 400 hurdles.
Just with
400, honestly.
Well, I was going to say with him listening in the background or whatever, I mean, how do you think you'd go? Like, or how does he think you'd go? He can come and answer. I don't know. Like, I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, he's coming. Come on.
He's coming.
All right.
Okay. So the question is, he's wearing a Broncos shirt.
Wear whatever he wants. Hello, welcome. I like the shirt.
He has. Actually, do you want to ask the question?
Please.
Yeah, you take over my job, Ash. Thanks very much. The question is, how do you think Ash would do in 400 hurdles? Like, do you think she would be all right?
Have a great time.
Yeah.
It'd be very long, 3 minutes.
Wow. Okay. That's the positivity there works.
She would do quite well. She's actually done it before, like not a full race, but she's gone over some hurdles.
Right.
In a training session, and is actually quite good at them. She would get very tired and be hating life from about the 200 meters to the end.
Okay.
I'd be hating life from the 60 to the end.
I love the specifics. That works. How do you think that he would go on bobsled, Ash? Like, let's flip it around.
Really good. I've been trying to get him to consider it because he's really tall. He's got long legs. He's a 400 hurdler, so he's powerful. I think he'd be great. Yeah.
Done. Yeah. Can we get mixed bobsled? Is that a thing? Can we get instead of the 2-man, 2-woman, is there not the man-woman bobsled?
Yes, I know. It's a long, maybe.
Complicated. All right. Okay. Well, another interview.
We can bring it back. There was a time when I was getting back into rugby where I had to run a 300. And I didn't even know on the track where that was. I haven't run that far. So he was like, okay, you're going to run to here. And he stationed some of our friends periodically throughout the track so that they could cheer me on when I was getting really tired to make it to the 300 mark.
Wow. That
and he was
works.
told them, well, you have to cheer for Ashleigh when she comes past. And everyone was like, you can do it. And it just made me laugh so hard because I was like, man, this must look really pathetic to me, trying to get there.
Fantastic. Wow. I love this. This is we need more guests bringing in their partners in to kind of spur it on, I think. It's kind of it works that way. So
he's good. He's being supportive. He's like, you should do well. And then he's like,
As soon as we hit stop, fuck, you would be shit. All right?
You would struggle. Oh my gosh.
It's like, don't even ask me that again. Like, seriously, that's just embarrassing how.
I'm playing the supportive part of it. It's really hard when you ask me stupid questions.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time on the show. Thank you very much. We like the shirt. Yeah, piss off. We want him on the show now.
That seems fair. Everyone likes him more.
That works. We love the guest appearances on the show. It works. Now, this next one, I'm actually done a bit of extra legwork for this one because this is a fun question. If your Olympic journey were a movie, Ash, what would the title be and who would play you?
It would have to be called one of two things. Either Not Again or Third Time Lucky, but I can let you know next year.
Yep.
And who would play me?
It's always a tough one, that one, I feel, unless there's like, we had a Sergei Evglevsky on here, an Olympic shooter, and he straight away was like, yeah, I often get told I look like the daughter from A Quiet Place. And you Google it, she does weirdly look like him. And it's a weird thing. And you're like, yeah, I see it. So I don't know if there's an actress or an actor that somebody's like, hey, yes, people think I look like Tom Cruise. It's random, but it works. I don't know.
I think I look like Tom Cruise, so that is weird. No, people, I used to get Sandra Bullock a lot.
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
But I reckon like I would have to play me, honestly. Like, I don't know. Like, I have the raw emotion. Like,
you do, and you got the skill. I mean, I was going to go with someone random like... I'm going for the curly hair more so, but I'm thinking someone like a Juliana Margulies or Amy Brenneman, but like that's just because of the hair more so, like because of the curly hair.
It is the main character.
Well, of course.
Pass that over anything.
Yeah, well, I've done some extra. Well, I think this would be a bit of fun. I'm going to try to do this with each of our guests. I've actually gone to ChatGPT, Ash, and I've typed in, give me some suggestions for a movie after the famous Australian bobsledder / NRLW player Ash Werner, and who do you think would play her? So they've come up with 10 title ideas for a movie on Ash Werner. Ice and Iron. Ooh, that sounds good. Breaking the Ice. Yeah, probably not so. Fast and Fearless. That one's not bad. This is my favorite. From Scrum to Sled. I mean, it should be the other way around, right? Well, you started in rugby union.
Oh, that's funny.
That works. We've got Cold Pursuit, Full Contact, Chasing Winter, that one's lazy, Frost and Fury, No Brakes, or Sled Storm. They're not bad.
I like No Brakes because I think that's such a smart play on.
All right, okay. Now, who they think they should play you, right? They've straight away gone with Margot Robbie. All right. Wouldn't say no to that, would you?
Okay.
Florence Pugh. There's another one. Samara Weaving, another great Australian. Now, there's a couple here that I'm going to be honest that I have not heard of them, but you might have or other people might have heard of. So we've got Jessica DeGo, an Aussie actress with the right athletic look and toughness. I don't know who that is, but sure. We've got Jodie Comer. She's known for Killing Eve. I don't know her. I know this one. Sorry, Ronda Rousey. I mean, why not? That's not a bad one, actually, Ronda Rousey. I can almost, there's a bit in the face. Yeah, okay. I like that one. And the other one here, the last one they got is Adelaide Kane, another Aussie actress. But anyway, there's a few suggestions for you, Ash.
Okay.
Yeah?
I'd be happy with any of them.
I like this adding it. I don't want to answer our guest questions, but like, I mean, that's, unless you... Yeah, it's like, but I like these like names that they come up with it. Anyway, all right, let's get into the next one. What is the one question you are tired of being asked, and what is the one you wish people would ask you instead?
I don't get tired of people asking any question because
that's why you do this show.
Exactly. I think there are no silly questions because I do sports. Well, I do at least one of my two sports is very random and left field. But I also like that people are interested in it enough to ask. So there are no silly questions. I will answer every question. The most frequent question I do get is, how did you get into bobsled? But I will answer that 1,000,001 times. Like, I have no issue with that. The question that I wish people would ask more of is probably something around like, how has not making the Olympics like impacted you? I want to talk more about the mindset, and I feel like people generally tend to ask like, oh, you're a bobsledder, that's an Olympic sport, did you go to the Olympics? And then I always have to explain what happened. And although I completely understand because like I do it too to other people, and it's just what we associate with Olympic sports. Like I feel like my story is so much one of resilience and picking yourself up after something goes wrong, and the things that I've learned, because what makes your career highlights is always how you handle the lowlights. There is no career that has just gone up and up and up and up and up. And the things that get you your achievements is what you did when you were down at your lowest. And so I really love talking about that. And I wish more people would ask about the bad things that people like are so, I think as humans, we just like don't like discomfort. So we don't ask about it, but I wish more people would ask.
It's so funny you say that because you've essentially answered the last question. We end on a deep and meaningful question. The question is, what's one lesson you've learnt from losing that you think has shaped you more than winning? And I mean, you kind of answered it there, I feel.
Well, I can give you this is the one thing that I have learned, especially in the last 3 years. And I can't remember if I've already said it because I've said so much. But the thing that I take away the most at the moment is you cannot control what happens to you. You can only control what you do next. And so I think so often we get caught up in like, for me, I'm like, oh, I got that injury, or I didn't go to the Olympics. And you get so caught up in that. But like, you don't have any control over that. I had no control in making the Olympics because someone else was going to make that selection call. With my injury, I had no control over that because it was a really awkward tackle that just happened. And then I, tore the ligaments in my foot. But what I do have control over is the fact that the next day after my injury, I took my moon boot off and told everyone that I was fine and tried to return my crutches, which was absolutely the wrong thing. But the next couple of weeks was, I know I'm going to need to keep getting strong and fast. So I'm going to be doing chin-ups with my moon boot on. I'm going to be doing my upper body work. I'm going to be on the bike. I'm going to be keeping this. And at the time, I had no idea what I was training for because I didn't know what was wrong with my foot. We couldn't figure it out until a couple of weeks later because it was so swollen. The results came up with everything is wrong. And then when I was during the NRLW season, it became really clear to me that my big hurdle was going to be whether or not I ran again, as opposed to was I going to get on the field this season. And so I just took every day as I'm grateful to be walking, and then I'm grateful to be jogging, and then I'm grateful to be running slowly. And now I'm grateful to be trying to change direction. And I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm grateful for the pain because it's healing. And then I'm grateful to be able to run a Bronco, even though I freaking hated it. It's horrible. And then I'm grateful to be doing extra tackle practice because at least now I can make a tackle and I'm not in horrendous pain. And I'm really grateful to be in a bobsled because 6 months ago I was told that I might not be running. So I think, it's more about you focusing on the things that you can do, the next step you take, rather than focusing on the thing that happened to you, which you cannot change.
Great answer. And I knew you were going to answer that one perfectly at the end.
My favorite question.
Hey, you basically gave me a freebie by answering it the previous one there. Although I always get scared of question 9 because if I do the what's one question you're tired of being asked and you're like, well, you asked it already in this interview, then I'm just like,
it was actually the first question.
Would you like to come on this podcast? I'm sick of that question. I'm sick of being asked that. Ash,
yeah, but sick of that question.
Yeah, exactly. It's always. You are a podcast queen now. You've done so many of these. But again, subtle brag. We started it. I don't think you'd done any before you'd done our show, had you? Just say no.
I don't think. I think I'd maybe done one before. But
that one doesn't count.
No, it doesn't count. But yours was the one that I was able to talk freely and comfortably, and it set me up really well.
Yeah, I'm actually the one. I'm surprised, and I'm putting it out there because he's the #1 sports podcaster in this country. The Howie Games. Come on, Mark Howard, get her on the show. There's a story there.
Yeah,
come on.
Ready.
Yeah, ready to go. Ash, people want to follow your journey. Obviously you tagged it last time around social media, and are you on TikTok? Because you would own TikTok.
Okay, I am on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. So you can add me on TikTok. I think I have 3 videos. But I
got to add them. You're so the Instagram ones are so good though. I'm surprised that hasn't translated over.
TikTok. So
yeah, me neither. Let's be honest. But hey.
Yeah, I'm.
That's where we're old. Let's be honest. We don't know how to use TikTok.
Yeah, but I'm on Instagram. I am on TikTok. I'm gonna try and get better at things on TikTok. But you can follow me on TikTok.
Just people search your name. That's where they'll find you. Simple.
That's what I'm going to meet. Ashleigh, Leigh.
There you go. OWI if you're listening. Yeah, that's it. But Ash, seriously, it's always an absolute pleasure. I mean, I know this is only the second time, but I mean, it's always an absolute joy the 2 times that we've had you on, and we always appreciate just your honesty, your rawness, just how personal you are, and we're wishing you all the best of luck between now and that certain event that's happening next year, whether you're there or not. But we're sure that there's going to be many big things to come, and we'll definitely get you back on this show no matter what. You can come and be a co-host. How does that sound? There you go. Retire. Be a co-host. You'd take over this seat in no time. People would want you, not me. Easy.
Be careful what you wish for. No, but thank you so much for having me on. And you've always been such a big supporter of me. Wherever I've been, I really appreciate your messages, checking in, and I love the opportunity to be here.
Stalking. Stop stalking me, Ben. I've done the chat.
All right. Thank you for stalking me. So I don't know what you're listening.
Everyone needs a stalker. Come on. You know you made it when you got a stalker, right?
I'm doing that. I don't know how to answer that. I appreciate you.